the transfer portal, all of that goodness, all of the things that, keep it interesting in the quote unquote off season in college football. Although that's becoming less and less of a thing, meaning off season. There really isn't one these days as we all watch our rosters and everybody else's to see what's available, who's staying, who's going, all that good stuff. So should be fun. And we do have some information on that front. In fact, we already recorded a clip, Tom and I did, just about an hour ago, involving a couple of the players that have entered the portal for Florida State. For those driving around, perhaps haven't checked it out, aren't as locked in on a regular basis with what's happening in the transfer portal, I can tell you that, look, there's a lot of players in it. I will say this, Tom, when we look at the countrywide, when you look at the nation, when you look at the talent that has entered the portal, whatever it is, close to 300 names since it opened back up. I would just note that most of the players that are entering the portal right now are guys. In fact, 2/3 of them I read earlier this morning. 2/3 of the players available this week have never started a game in college football. So there aren't a ton of high-end players, elite-level players, established players that have made a big difference for a Power 5 team that have entered in. There's a few, but there aren't that many. And I feel like that's kind of where we're headed with this thing. I think, again, as collectives get better and as programs get better at figuring this stuff out, and as you begin to recruit better within the high school ranks and you develop a culture and then you build a wall around it. And what I mean by that is you do it with the best way possible. You create the culture, you do the right thing in the NIL game. You really don't have as much to go after once you've established a roster. And Florida State is getting closer and closer to establishing a roster.
Yeah, I'd say that, what I'll be looking at the next 2 weeks for this open portal period, and then what I'll be looking at subsequent for the next month or two, will be two different things. I want to see if any big Power 5 teams are jettisoning players, or the players themselves are saying that I'm not pleased with where I came out in spring. And that's what you're alluding to, is a lot of these kids aren't actually in the 2 deep at all. They're guys that, might be buried and they want a better situation. But that's only one pile of resumes, if you will, in the portal. The other is the kids from Group of 5 schools, the kids from a lower level that are going to complete their undergraduate studies, and they might not be in the portal in this 2-week period of time, but once you complete your 4-year degree, you can enter at any moment and go somewhere else at any moment. So, I just wonder if Florida State takes, say, 4 players. Let's just say that they have enough guys leave that they can take 4 players on. How many of them would actually come from Power 5? Because my guess would be 1 or 2 at most. They probably would mine for the Braden Fisks of the world, from the Western Michigans of the world, more than they would from, say, Alabama or Georgia or South Carolina again, or something along those lines.
Yeah, I think that you can be really selective right now. If we talk about what Florida State may want to bring in, I think the answer is pretty clear. You might want to bring in a linebacker, you might want to bring in a safety, and you might want to bring in a defensive end. I don't know that there's another position that you would feel strongly about. Maybe a difference maker at wide receiver, maybe, but it doesn't seem like that's something that's going to happen right now. So I think the 3 positions I just named are likely the positions where if the right guy entered the portal and he met all of the pre-existing criteria, that's the biggest part of what Florida State's done in creating the culture despite adding all of these transfer portal players. It is hard to maintain a happy environment if you're constantly recruiting over guys with veteran players from other schools. I mean, that would rub you the wrong way pretty quick if you've been putting in the work and you're on the come up, and then somebody swoops in to take over, that junior season. I think that would be frustrating for a lot of people, and eventually that would catch up with you. The only way you can do it is if you've created a really good culture by having a set of rules, and we know what those are. We've already talked about that with Mike Norvell. I've talked about it with Alex Atkins. I've talked about it with Adam Fuller, that, guys aren't just coming here because we need to fill a role. They have to meet a lot of other needs besides just being fast and strong and being able to jump high and perhaps play the position that we need to be filled. You have to be a team guy first. You have to be willing to work. You have to be willing to submit to the idea that even though you've maybe a veteran player who's registered a ton of snaps at the Power 5, it doesn't mean you're going to come in here to start. We're bringing you in because we'd like you to come in and compete to start, but that's just it. You're going to have to come in and compete to start. And all of the guys that have said yes, well, I say all the guys, almost all of the guys that have said yes to Florida State have met that criteria. And if they didn't, they were gone pretty quickly. So I think Florida State is in a position now. The roster's good, really good. It's deep at most places, and they're not going to take just anybody. They're going to take a guy that can be a difference maker that adheres to those values so that the culture stays intact. Long term, I think you still have to build through the high school ranks, and it's good that they're starting to get yeses from big-time players in the high school ranks.
Yeah, agreed across the board there. They don't always hit. Here's another place where they usually do, but they don't always. In their evaluations in the portal in terms of the skill. There are the Marcus Cushney examples or Malik Feasters of the world, but most of the guys that they decide to take a chance on and spend a scholarship on, they pan out and they become good players for them. And sometimes, in a lot of cases, very good players, linchpins. Dylan Gibbons is a great example of that, but we all know the defensive lineman as a couple of examples. Jermaine Johnson leading the way there. The great thing for Florida State at this point is you can afford to be picky. You don't need to throw bodies at a problem as often or for as many position groups. You're looking for good and talented players. So when you combine the fact that you can be picky because you've got a baseline of talent on this roster, along with their skill to evaluate and to be quick to pounce on a name that enters the portal, keep their ears to the ground, whatever the skill set is involved with that, I don't know, but they're good at it. You combine all those things together, my confidence is high that when they're done with the portal this offseason, when in terms of bringing kids in, they're going to be good fits and they're going to be good football players.
I do not believe, we got a question in the chat about whether or not we'd go after just a punt returner. I don't think so. Exclusively a punt returner? I don't think so. I don't know. Obviously, whenever any question is asked about a position group, a player within that position group, it has to be understood that there are outliers and exceptions to all of those. If you're telling me the best punt returner in the country is available, yeah, man, I might go after that guy, especially if there was some mutual interest there. Sure. If you're saying there's a guy that is, he's had a modicum of success and you think that he's better than anybody else you have that may be in line to return punts until Micah Pittman comes back, are you going to take a flyer on a guy when you have so few openings? I don't think so. I think you'll take a chance that one of those defensive backs, of which you have a ton, one of those wide receivers, of which you have a ton, will be able to field a punt. You'll rep them and hope that you can do that. If there's an elite difference maker at any one position, unless you're stacked, I pretty much think that you would always be interested in upgrading a segment group with an elite player.
Yeah, I agree. If it's Greg Reed that's on the market, you go get Greg Reed to return punts for you. If it's Micah Pittman, the punt returner, I wouldn't waste a Scully on that if I could go somewhere else. Pittman has helped solidify what we are at punt returner, and we will miss him. But that I wouldn't confuse that with Willie Reed or Greg Reed or Peter Warwick or Deion Sanders. He's not that. He's just professional. He is professional at helping us miss the hidden yards. So I agree with you. I think part of that conversation of how picky they're going to be with specialists or position groups also will be influenced by how many more big names enter the portal between now and the 2-week window closing. Honestly, it's the outgoing market that has me more on edge than the incoming announcements for Florida State as this window opens and closes.
Well, I want more names to enter the portal from our roster, and we've got a couple already. Brendan Gant has left. We've talked about him. You'll hear that in a segment coming up. Tom and I had to quick do that for the website, not just the show. So we literally did it moments before we came on the air today. So we're going to play that second segment right now, this hour. So you'll get our thoughts on the outgoing players Florida State has right now. And Tavius Woody is also gone. And this is not a surprise. To lose either one of those guys is not a surprise. I'm a little disappointed, very little, and I don't mean this as a knock. I'm just talking about the quality of depth or players that we lose. It's different for each segment group. It's different for each assessment, right? You go, oh, well, we lost Tavius Woody. Well, that's a kid that moved from offensive line to defensive line. He wasn't going to play this year at all. I'm not devastated. They're deep there. Brendan Gant, I liked in coverage quite a bit. It's unfortunate that skill set is not on the roster and he'll be leaving. He's a kid that would have been in the rotation situationally. So, you hate to see that. I mentioned Derek McClendon when he left. Was it devastating to your chances of winning the ACC? Devastating is a strong word. No, I don't think I'd call it devastating. Was it unfortunate because he was going to be part of the 4-man rotation at defensive end? Yeah, it was. You're better with him than without him. So I don't like to lose players that you're better with than without. But was I going to lose sleep over it? No, because it's not like losing Jordan Travis. It's not like losing, if Johnny Wilson entered the portal, you might be like, well, damn, that changes that receiving. In fact, if you want to have a fun exercise, do that. Go through the segment groups and say to yourself right now, if this player announces that he's entering the portal, wear what? Wear what? And if you do it with Jordan Travis, you might have a word you can't say here on the radio. If you do it with Jared Verse, you might say a word you can't say on the radio here. If you do it with Johnny Wilson, you might say, well, by committee is not the way you win a national championship. You might be a little nervous at that point. You got to have a difference maker at some of these places. So, when the player announces, do you feel that way? Do you say that to yourself, or do you go, we'll be okay?
I think in most cases it will be, quote unquote, we will be fine. But there's always that chance. And like I said on Monday, we talked about this over the weekend too. It's very much like a Dear Diary type of thing with the rumors of, who could be entering the portal, who has an offer, who's knocking down on whose door. They're getting a call from this SEC school or that Pac-12 school or this Big Ten school. And then none of it, happens. None of it comes to be and the kid stays on campus. It's like 90-10. The ratio of things that could happen, rumors that you do hear, versus the 10% of the kid's name actually ends up in the portal. So you're always on edge, though, and I'm sure as a coach right now, Mike Norvell is waiting to see, all right, how much damage do I need to withstand, and do we need to respond to in the offseason? Hopefully it's more like these types of announcements where it's just kids who are looking to play the game more. They want to play more snaps. There's no hard feelings with Brendan Gant and Antavius Woody whatsoever.
No hard feelings whatsoever. Thanks, Scott. I see that you have added in the chat here. Thanks for taking a second to chat about old times this weekend. Do you think Duffy is a possibility to end up in the portal this week? I like him, but he feels like the odd man out here, says Scott. I think I would be surprised if he announced for the portal this week. I think I'd be very surprised. I think Duffy will hang in there and compete through the year. I don't know that, but I would be surprised if he left this early in his time at Florida State. Let's remember, he's not been here very long at all, just the 1 year. Freshman quarterbacks don't typically come in and elevate themselves on the depth chart to a place where they're going to be a starter or a backup. They might get to be a backup if they're elite, but typically it takes time. That's a tough position to build and to come up through the ranks. There's a second part of what you inferred there, and I do think that is true. I think a lot of people feel this way, and that is that it's beginning to feel, if you draw the picture, if you draw this out to its logical conclusion, and you kind of project what you think everybody else is in that room and what's coming down the pike in the way of Kromenhoek, you begin to kind of paint a picture that sees Duffy being the odd man out. I agree with that assessment. I could see him being the odd man out. We'll see. The fall could be very, very interesting. If somehow he takes a big step forward and he's nipping at the heels of Tate Rodemaker, well, then maybe we would have to reconsider the picture that we're drawing here. But as of right now, I think if you were to, force me to pick something here, I'd tell you that, he seems like a guy out of all the quarterbacks, the ones that are incoming, the ones that just got here. You think about how Brock played this spring, and you do start to see a path to Duffy playing somewhere else. You do.
I'd agree that if you project it to next year and next spring, that would not be stunning. Today, this week, would it be absolutely stunning? He didn't have a bad camp. And he could still, be Florida State starter. Like, this thing could turn to where AJ puts 2 good weeks together in fall camp. And we go, oh, never mind. Look at what this kid did. He took that next step. But for right now, that would just seem to be premature. I would be very interested to see where the destination was if Duffy entered the portal right now, because I don't think he would do it without a destination that's a pretty good one.
I would be very surprised. I'm reminded, and we know this, and it's difficult, and it happens with rookies in the NFL too, depending on the position. Because there are outliers, because there are players who come in as true freshmen wherever. You look around the country, every year there's a handful of guys that will come in and you'll watch them be a star wide receiver, a star running back. In some cases, even a very, very good starting quarterback as a freshman. Occasionally, not a lot, but occasionally it happens. And when it does, we see it as fans and realize, well, that's possible. That's a thing that can happen. It's, it's not all that crazy to think somebody's that kind of transcendently good at the craft of whatever the position is they're starring at, right? But it's not normal. In fact, not only is it not normal, it's highly irregular. Most of the time, if you're a player at a skill position, in particular a quarterback, and you come in, unless you're an elite runner, unless you're somebody that can absolutely embarrass somebody with their legs, they have the kind of elusiveness that allows them to buy time when plays break down because they don't know where to go with the football. They don't understand the complexity of the defense they're looking at. And so rather than panic and get sacked or throw a pick, they make 5 people miss. And then now you just play this guy because he's electrifying and he can get away with mistakes because he's an elite athlete. Most of the time, if that's not the case, it takes a long time for a guy to figure it out, like 2 full years at coming in and learning an offensive system and getting comfortable, being away from home, being around the fellas, learning the offense, understanding where to go with the football, pre-snap reads, all that stuff, getting stronger, getting better in the weight room, eating, getting bigger overall, all that stuff, adapting to the college life. That is a normal thing. Jameis Winston was the exception. And remember, Winston ended up starting as a redshirt freshman, not a true freshman. He was a redshirt freshman. And Jameis is the outlier. Jameis is one of these preternaturally gifted individuals who has everything. He's got size, strength, and elite intelligence. When it comes to football, there's not too many kids smarter ever that I've ever spoken to about football. So Jameis was the full package the day he stepped on campus, and he still didn't start until he was a redshirt freshman. So it takes some time. We're going to elaborate on the 2 kids that we just referenced, Brendan Gant and Tavius Wooding, taking it on down the road and transfer portal conversation. That's next on the Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
$7,700.
Motorcycle accident? Call Basic Brooks Law Offices, 777-7777.
Parker's Services, conferences to call away. 222-7722. Heating and cooling is the job we do. Parker's Services, conferences to call away.
Invest in a Peak Performance membership and you'll buy peace of mind in knowing that you're extending the life of your system and probably saving money on your power bill too. The program includes comprehensive tune-ups that keep your system running at its maximum efficiency. And Peak Performance members get many benefits, including priority service. Members jump to the front of the line when their comfort system fails. And a 15% discount on all parts. The Peak Performance membership pays for itself over and over again. Call today and have peace of mind. Florida license number CMC 050334.
Parker's Services, conferences to call away. Parker's Services, conferences to call away.
Discover the tastes of Peru at Café de Martín and El Bar, a one-of-a-kind culinary and cocktail concept created by classically trained chef Martín Araujo. Con amor y pasión, with love and passion, Café de Martín is a fine Peruvian dining experience in an approachable, comfortable, cultural-rich space built for creating memories to last a lifetime. Enjoy happy hour daily with a full bar, handcrafted cocktails, beers on draft and bottle, paired with a selection of Peruvian tapas like crispy fried yuca with house-made huancaína sauce, carefully selected charcuterie boards, a selection of fresh ceviches, and so much more. It's Café de Martín and El Bar. Escape to Peru, a country of great culture, beauty, and food right here in the capital city. Café de Martín and El Bar on Capitol Circle Northeast in the Esposito Shopping Center. Open daily for lunch, happy hour, and dinner. Online at cafedemartin.com.
If you're hearing this right now and you or someone you know is active military, a veteran, police officer, firefighter, nurse, or a teacher, turn up the volume and listen to this. My friend Shannon with Legendary Home Loans has a hometown hero loan program designed to make a difference to those who make a difference. When it's time to buy a new home, he will waive all lender fees for all hometown heroes. That's a $1,600 value right out of the gate. Also, if you decide to use their preferred title company for their closing, you'll be saving another $600. That's $2,200 in discounts right off the top. That's like 20 tanks of gas in your car. And today, more than ever, it's important to save as much money as you can, wherever you can. So if you or someone you know is active military, veteran, police officer, firefighter, nurse, or a school teacher and looking to buy a new home, choose Shannon Young, Legendary Home Loans, and ask about their Hometown Heroes program. Call 844-FSU-LOAN or just visit FSUHomeLoans.com. That's FSUHomeLoans.com.
Equal housing lender. NMLS number 2270146.
We all want more energy, more strength, more results. Well, welcome to Orange Theory Fitness as you take a step towards feeling more alive today. Backed by science, Orange Theory's heart rate monitored workout is scientifically designed to keep heart rates in a target zone, spiking metabolism and increasing energy. Orange Theory Fitness is a one-of-a-kind group personal training workout resulting in more energy, visible toning, and extra calorie burn for up to 36 hours. Experience a more vibrant life today with Orange Theory Fitness. To find out more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com multimedia network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. That's Warchant.com. Now, back to Jeff on Real Talk 93.3.
In what will likely be one of many updates, we assume, when it comes to the transfer portal, let's do an update. We need a sounder. We need a sounder for the Warchant TV and Warchant.com. Heck, Jeff Cameron Show, Wake Up Warchant, you name it. We need a sounder for every time we have to update the portal. Got to imagine it's going to be bountiful, hopefully for the good for Florida State. We do have an update, though, for those that have been monitoring. Brendan Gant taking it on down the road. We talked about that some yesterday. And Mr. Woody is also on his way out the door. He had gotten switched to defensive tackle, and I wondered in that moment, Tom, if we're being honest, if this long-term was going to work out well for him. I think that's a tough transition with a group that is as deep as it is, and I think that's where we should start. If you go from offensive line, which is very, very deep, and that's a good thing to have happen to this offensive line in the last year, you've seen an added depth and quality of depth and competition. And then you go from that position and you get moved to defensive tackle. Ordinarily, you would have said, okay, well, there's a rotation in there for you, a guy your size. But, man, they're really deep there too. And so when we watched practice, you just never got a sense that he was going to get much playing time this year, certainly. Maybe hardly any, if at all. So you can understand why if he wants to play and play right now, maybe he feels like there's greener pastures. This was the spring I dubbed the spring of hurt feelings. This isn't a bitter thing. Brendan Gant got moved to positions as well a year ago and actually filled that role at linebacker, his move from safety to linebacker. I thought pretty well, Tom. I thought he was a player that did well in coverage in particular. And this isn't a segment group at linebacker where you see that be their expertise. So there was a use for him, and he filled that role pretty well. But he, too, has decided to go elsewhere where he can hopefully play a more prominent role. I imagine there's a few more names. Florida State's got to have a few more names go into this portal or decide to leave for whatever reason, given the 85 that they got to get down to.
Yeah, I'll start with Gant. That one hurts because they loved what he brought to special teams. He was a standout for Florida State on special teams. And then situationally, in this day and age of college football, if you have a team or an opponent that has a lot of slot targets and you don't want to, or at least more than one true linebacker out there who is tried and true around the line of scrimmage, stops the run, Gant was an option for you in that type of setting. So you lose a bit of a specialist who was going to be in the rotation, I think, in the fall versus Antavius Woody, who was not going to be in the rotation in the fall. They are so deep at defensive tackle, sir, that Bishop Thomas, who was somebody who was lauded last year through camp as going to be one of those guys in the rotation in the future, they're testing him out of the edge as a edge-setting defensive end versus D tackle. I don't know that that experiment's going to work out, but the point being that if you got a guy like that who was brought in as a defensive tackle out of high school and the coaches were really high on, and you're trying to find a spot for him to get some playing time, that speaks to how deep they are at defensive interior. Now, the picture next year wasn't going to be as crowded. One wouldn't think. I mean, Josh Farmer, Darrell Jackson, Braden Fisk, and Fabian Lovett could all be gone, eligible to go to the next level. So if you could have held on for one more year, then perhaps you'd be in the plans. But there's no doubt of the younger players, 2 redshirt freshmen are going to be the first up when it comes to extra reps in the defensive line, and that would be Daniel Lyons and Ayo Tafasi. So it's just a very crowded situation for Antavius Woody. It makes a lot of sense. There were some folks I know specifically on the recruiting side of things, on the recruiting boards, that were hoping that Antavius Woody would have come here to Florida State as a defensive tackle to begin with. He projected that way in some people's minds out of high school, but they tried O-line first, didn't work out. And then this is just going to happen. It's part and parcel to being Florida State as a 10-win program and hopefully better, that you're going to have guys that you brought in, they aren't going to work out because they see that the depth chart is too crowded in front of them. So that's what happened, I think, in both of these cases.
Really good problem to have. I would argue and submit to everybody that it's going to be bigger names in the future. It's not going to be guys that are playing a singular role or not in the rotation and really not close to playing in the case of Woody. You lose a guy like that, most people, this is not a personal attack against the kid, but most people go, okay, we lost Antavius Woody. You might kind of cringe a little because you had something in Gant that was maybe more than what you thought you were going to get with that specialist role that you aptly described. But I don't think anybody's going to lose sleep over that either. In the future, there are going to be names that you lose, and I don't mean this particular trek around the portal. We'll see. We don't know. I just think that as you continue to build quality depth on your roster, you stand to lose some guys that are part of that depth who want to be starters and want to be a depth piece. They want to be a guy that's considered the man, and they may get opportunities at other schools that are trying to supplant their roster with more talent, and they see an opportunity to come calling on a kid, whether he's from a certain region, which is near that university, whether it's because that kid was a 4- or 5-star kid coming out of high school and hasn't been able to fulfill the role that he was expected to right away or as quickly as he would have liked. Kids like that are susceptible perhaps to hearing what they want to hear or being told what they want to be told. And so you lose guys like that. I think that's going to be the future. I think Alabama bakes that in to the way that they do business. I think that's probably going to be the way of the world for an elite ball club anywhere. If you're Florida State and you enter into the realm of being hunted the way that Georgia is right now, the way that Alabama is annually, the way that programs, when they're operating at peak efficiency and have cachet are, Ohio State comes to mind, Oklahoma for years, Southern Cal is about to emerge as such. I think Florida State's about to emerge as such if they get to where they want to go. And this is what's going to happen. You're just going to lose guys. And sometimes in the future, it'll be bigger guys than this, certainly.
Yeah, this is something that's kind of fun for Florida State fans, too, because even if this process gets and poaches a player off the roster that you didn't want to lose, I don't think you're going to hate the kid. You know what I mean? Like, there are times in the past where on National Signing Day, you'd have a prospect flip at the 11th hour, not communicate to the staff, and maybe that fostered some bad feelings around the fan base. But just as we did 5 years ago, we got used to something else, which is Florida State has a head coach who moved on to somewhere else. He's still in the profession. When Bobby Bowden left, he left the profession. When Jimbo Fisher left Florida State high and dry after leaving recruiting high and dry and going to Texas A&M, this is this weird thing where, oh yeah, there's this other thing on Saturdays that I could tune in and there's an FSU tie. It was different, and it was largely root against Jimbo. But in the case of the portal, Trayshawn Ward's at Kansas State. Going to check in on him. Malik McLean's at Penn State. Definitely going to check in on that kid. Wherever Brendan Gant goes, I would imagine he's going to play and be in the rotation. Let's just say it was someplace like, I don't know, like Indiana or something. If there's a noon kick and Indiana's on, man, I'm looking for Brendan Gant. How's Brendan Gant doing? that's the thing about the portal these days is as Florida State gets better and better, you have a lot of these no hard feelings send-offs. You root for these kids, and you actually start watching different pockets of the country because that's where some of these kids are going to go.
Yeah, you do. It is different, and it's a case-by-case basis because there will be plenty of kids that you're not rooting for.
Sure.
There will be kids that you go, well, good riddance, and I hope you fail. That's a bit harsh. But I would say that I'm just talking about the fan base. I wouldn't be surprised if that is a common occurrence, just like there are plenty of kids, probably more kids, certainly, that you are going to root for, that you're going to understand the set of circumstances. Nobody's rooting against Trayshawn Ward. I don't know how you could be if you were paying attention. He was great, and he played hard, and he worked his way into a place where he could start, and you could celebrate that because he was a walk-on prior. Nobody's rooting against that kid. But there would be plenty of kids where you're like, well, so Sam McCall's gone. Oh, well. That kind of a thing happens, and it's what it is. But having said that, it's the new world of college football. Portal, NIL, lots of changes, lots of comings and goings, and uncertainty, which makes you nervous on a day-to-day basis when these windows of time are available because you just don't know. Kids are going to get disinformation, just like we all do on a daily basis as we try to find out what's real and what's not in the world of news. Kids are going to be bombarded with all kinds of offers. Some will be real, some will not, and a few in between. And so that's what you worry about because your roster's never really set.
Yeah, I think and when you guys were doing headlines yesterday on Warchant TV live at 1 o'clock, just as the Jeff Cameron is, Monday, Wednesday through Friday on Warchant TV live at 1 p.m., I did a little section on the article because what he tweeted that he intends to go into the portal. So we have to have something on the site, and it's about impact on 2023. And it's minimal. And so far through these 2 transfers in 2 days, and again, we're recording this near lunchtime on Wednesday, April 19th, the impact of the portal losses so far is minimal since the spring game. McClendon is that's a moderate impact, I think, of the defensive end rotation. But if you're just talking about from the spring game into this window of 2 weeks, so far, minimal impact on Florida State in the near term and the long term. But we'll see. Stay tuned on that.
When it comes to starters or the 2 deep, I can hear all of us from Braveheart, hold. Some of the other guys that are further down the list, but those 2 deep guys, you're like, oh, come on now. Let's get through this thing together. We'll continue to update you about the portal. And also you should know, you see the offer right there. If you sign up through August 31st, you get, $29.99? That's what it is right now to become a Warchant subscriber. That is a cheap deal, a good deal, a deal you want to be a part of in the always active world of college football right now, especially while Florida State is on the rise, continues to climb, and is in a position to be playing really meaningful games, both on and off the field. Games in the portal, making moves. On the field, obviously, we all count it down from this point forward to the LSU game over in Orlando. So you're going to want to be a part of that. You're going to want to utilize the expertise on warchant.com, whether it's listening to the JCS, appreciate that. Wake Up Warchant, always love that. Reading Ira's columns, Corey's columns, all of the work that Tom Wang puts together as a content man. You're going to want all that stuff. That's what I call you, Tom, the content man.
I like that. That's my new title. We're changing.
Content man.
Yeah.
My favorite one. You're going to want all that stuff. Michael Langston also, obviously, in the world of recruiting, which is really busy all the time now, too. So make sure you do that. Get subscribed for just $29.99 right now through August 31st, 2023. Good deal for you. Warchant.com, of course. All right, more on that portal update as it becomes available, as it's necessary. Check back. If you like and subscribe, you'll get the notification that, in fact, we've done another video updating you on what's what in the transfer portal. What's up, guys? Our next partner that you're going to hear from is Athletic Greens. You've heard me talk about Athletic Greens in the past. Happy to talk about them again. I take Athletic Greens every day, and I gave them a try because certainly I wanted more energy, sustained energy. I wanted to support my immune system. I don't like taking pills and vitamins per se, and I wanted something that tasted good too. And the first time I tried it, I was very surprised. It had an appreciable effect on my energy levels. And also, over time, you'll note that it helps your skin, your hair, your nails. I don't have a lot of hair, but if I did, I bet I could feel that. I bet I could tell. It's a comprehensive health habit, and it is a powerful one at that. AG1 is great for recovery. That's Athletic Greens. And I take mine basically when I wake up every morning. I don't have to worry about it because you get all the nutrients that you want. It's the best way to ensure that you're going to get all of your vitamins. It's a carbon neutral business, by the way, if that's important to you. It is to a lot of people, and that's good to know as well. I would also note that it is a comprehensive solution to what you need from a supplement routine. Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs right now with your first purchase. Go to athleticgreens.com/JCS. Helps me out, guys, if you use that. Not financially, but it lets them know that you heard this ad on my show. And I do take it, and I am vouching for them because I enjoy their product. It's athleticgreens.com/JCS. Check it out. I think you'll note the difference in your life with a simple drink each and every morning to start your day. athleticgreens.com/JCS.
And they provide precise installation.
Whitten Glass, Tallahassee's first family in glass. Online at whittenglass.com. Call 850-222-5781.
My man Eddie.
Jeff, what's happening, dude?
Bears eating people all over the place. I read another article today. It's the third one in the last month of somebody getting mauled to death by a bear.
Man, bears have their own space.
Well,
you got to let them have that.
You do. You got to stay clear of bears, is what you're saying?
Yes.
I got a question for you. Here you go. If you had to be mauled to death, eaten alive by any animal in the world, which would you choose to eat you alive?
Ooh, I think maybe I'd want, I don't know, longevity time, a mouse.
Just a slow burn.
Slow burn.
This thing just finished the pinky. It's been a month.
I could go to work. I could still do my thing. I could probably live 30 years.
I thought you were going to say great white because it'd be quick, or a grizzly. We went with mouse.
Yeah, mouse.
Okay. Mouse it is. Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
Welcome back to the Jeff Cameron Show, sponsored by Legendary Home Loans, a mortgage experience designed around speed, simplicity, and customer service. Before you buy your next home,
Jeff Cameron Show 93.3, Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Good to be with you. Appreciate you. By the way, I heard during our break, are we frozen? Are we good? Is everybody good? Are we live? All right, we're good. I just don't see us, so I didn't know. But look at that. There you go. A little Athletic Greens action right now, live on the air. So you know I'm not lying to the people.
Man, you walk the walk.
I do. This stuff is delicious. And I realized when I heard the commercial, which, guys, I got to cut a new one. I'm very well aware of it. That's a lengthy one. I gave Athletic Greens a lot of bang for their buck, but I need to just make this more succinct moving forward. Maybe the commercial could just be me going, holding this like that. But when I heard it, I was like, oh, man, you forgot to do it this morning. What's wrong with you, Cameron? So I got up and did it right then. There you go. All set. We're good to go. Answering this question in the chat, we kind of already alluded to it, but I don't know that there's going to be a for sure effort to go and get a defensive end. I would be surprised if they didn't go get a safety. I would be maybe not surprised about linebacker, but I still would like them to go get a linebacker. But if you had to pin me down on the 3 positions I suggested they might need some help and go get somebody, and again, this isn't the order that I would do it in, but if you had to pin me down, Tom, I would tell you that I would be surprised if they didn't get another safety. Out of those 3, I don't even know if you agree with me about the 3 positions, so you may have a different list, but Would you be surprised if they didn't go fill what position?
I think safety probably would be the biggest surprise. I'll be interested to see what they do with defensive back in general, because now you've got a full camp with Coach Surtain and his feedback on where everybody stands and what he sees. And perhaps he's got a different viewpoint on several players who he might say, these guys aren't dudes. They need to go. We need to do better here at outside corner. I'll be fascinated to see how they attack defensive back. I think if you can get another edge rusher, that has to be at the top of the list. You can never have too many of them. And we saw last year that when Jared Verse went down / was limited, how much of an impact that had on things. Patrick Payton can mitigate that to a degree, but I don't think you're deep enough there to fortify yourself against an injury. Like if one dude went down, defensive interior, you're okay there. At corner, you could probably survive. Safety, you have a blend of experience and skill, so you could probably live. Linebacker, I know you would say if you lost one of your two guys, you'd be correct. You feel kind of left out in the lurch. You might need to roll an extra defensive back out there. Maybe Shaheem Brown needs to walk up and play more of a linebacker hybrid role. So you feel the pinch to me at defensive end and linebacker probably the most from a depth standpoint, but I think safety is where they go first. So I guess that's a long way of saying I think we agree.
Yeah, I think we agree. I think they'll go, and if there's a guy available, again, that's part of it. You just don't know. When you say, look, I would like a safety, I'd like a linebacker, I'd like a defensive end. Keep in mind, everybody, that let's just say they agree with us. Let's just say the coaches agree that those are the areas of need. I don't know that to be the case. They may say that Jeff and Tom are nuts, but let's just say they did agree that those were the three positions where if the right guy was available. That's just it, right? The right guy has to be available, like I was saying last segment. Like, there may be, you go look at the names in the portal. There are safeties in the portal. There are linebackers in the portal. There are defensive ends in the portal. But when you really delve into it, I mentioned that stat, just about two-thirds of the players available that came out this week for the portal, that entered their names in the portal, have never started a college football game. Well, you're not going and grabbing a kid that hasn't shown you anything on tape in college. I maybe 2 years ago, he was a 4-star. So you think, no, you already got him on your roster.
Yep. Yeah.
So I think you're looking, we have been able, Florida State's been able to find an awful lot of kind of known commodities. Like Jermaine Johnson was a known commodity as a high-end player. And they got him to come in. Keir Thomas was too, to be honest with you. You knew that was a plug-and-play good player. You knew that. It looks like now guys are shopping, looking for kind of under-the-radar gems. They're looking for players that maybe nobody's really sure of just now. And I don't think we're taking a lot of chances as your roster gets better on guys that may or may not work out, but there's no real evidence already prior to us reaching out to them or them reaching out to us of their expertise. I don't think so.
Well, it goes back to what you said about you're going to piss off the high school kids who committed to you out the gates at some point. At some point, they're going to say, really? So this is like the third guy at my position that you're going to bring in here. I thought I was, well thought of as a high 4-star. What gives here? But if you bring in a guy whose tape says that he is a bona fide badass, and he's a rental for one season, and he makes you better, and maybe he doesn't start all the way, but, he splits reps or whatever it is. Like, it could be a linebacker. Or what if that guy was a wide receiver who was a game breaker? Like, it's very tough to project that type of player would be in the portal and that you would outbid somebody else for the services of said player. But let's just say that you had a 60-catch guy who was a top-end speed player at receiver. Is anybody in the room going to get pissed off if that guy is, a bona fide on-tape producer at the level? Maybe a guy like Winston Wright might get mad, but, honestly, it has to be somebody that the rest of the locker room would say, yeah, we're taking that guy because we want to go to the playoff. It couldn't be somebody who is like a clone. You don't want the Gilbert Edmond, Derek McClendon situation at a different position group this offseason, I guess is my point.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. I don't think you want that. I think you have to be very careful with that. You would lose people at that point. And depending on the guys you lose in the locker room, the quicker this thing dissolves into a less than stellar environment. And we've described it as nothing but a kumbaya situation for the most part. You have had very few malcontents and frustrated individuals that have made themselves apparent, and what I mean by that is, hey, you can be mad at your situation. You can decide it's an ugly situation and I need out, and nobody's mad at you about that. But then there are situations like you have at Texas A&M where it's been a nightmare. They're just dropping people left and right, 27 some odd people just out the damn door. It is abundantly clear that things aren't good at Texas A&M. They've got all kinds of problems, and we're not shocked to hear it. So,
yeah, I agree. The one place I would like to see a solution from the roster would be the middle of the offensive line. And I know they're going to try and work Casey Roddick really hard in the offseason to be able to snap the football. But it wouldn't break my heart if they found a Power 5 level center that we know on film can snap the ball and isn't a liability. Even if it's not to compete with Maurice Smith, even if it's just to have an insurance policy, if they have space for that and they went that direction because, maybe hypothetically they didn't like what was in the safety market or the linebacker market or the rush end market. I just saw enough to know that if Maurice Smith is out, and we know that on a Thursday before one of the big games, I'm not feeling so great about how we're going to hold up as an offense and how in rhythm we're going to be and all that kind of stuff. So maybe that's a position if you're looking for an outlier. Maybe the Roddick experiment, they say, it could work, but just in case it doesn't, let's go get this guy from an FCS school or this guy from a group of 5 school that's old, is large, and is a veteran.
Matthew Wyckoff was the starting center at Texas A&M, and he gave up 1 pass pressure over the course of however many starts I told you about. 30. Yeah, man, he's available. you can go get your starting center. 335 is out there.
Well, and that's the other thing is, I'm talking about a rental, but there is the potential that you could go in the portal and go get somebody who's a multi-year solution. It doesn't always have to be a mercenary for one season. And that's how we got to this place is we brought in a lot of multi-year transfers. Some of them left with a year of eligibility remaining, but then there are others like a Jared Verse who comes back, like a Dylan Gibbons who was here for multiple seasons. So that, and Dimitri Emmanuel, I mean, there is a path there that you could be thinking about the long term in the portal, even though that's an announcement that comes in the next month or so.
The Wyckoff kid's got multiple years, Tom. I'm just letting you know.
I'm aware of this. Yes.
He's got multiple years. Yeah. You could bring him in. He could start for you. It would solve a lot of problems. It does sound weird to say it, though, because they've got 13 freaking offensive linemen fighting for 5 spots. Yep. So one of them has got to be able to snap the ball. And listen, I know currently there is only one, but one of those other 12 dudes, or let's just shrink it to 7, the interior offensive linemen on this roster, okay? One of them has got to be able to snap. And if you do end up having to start Mo again, that's not the end of the world. I just don't think he's a championship level center because he's too small. And for whatever reason, he can't get bigger. He's just never going to get any bigger.
I think
what's going on with that.
He's going to redefine what a championship level center is for you, buddy, at least in the ACC championship path this season, if he stays healthy. But if you could find somebody else who is capable or maybe a little bit larger, I mean, they've been trying for 2 years. Like, don't blame us for trying to look at through door number 2. They brought in Caden Lyles for this express purpose. They brought in Casey Roddick for this express purpose. They were told both they would work at center. Outside of Dylan Gibbons, I don't know anybody the last couple of years before Lyles got hurt that is reliably a good center. We bring up Darius Washington all the time that, hey, he could play there. Well, he doesn't, so at some point, if your depth chart goes in terms of proven guys who can keep the ball moving in rhythm and hitting Jordan Travis between the numbers, is Maurice Smith and Stickle. No disrespect to number 64, but we either got to cultivate that option fast with guys that we have, or maybe that's a place that you look.
You can't disrespect Stickle, and I know you're not.
I'm not. I'm just saying, you say Maurice Smith is not the definition of a championship-level center.
Correct.
I take issue with that, at least when it comes to ACC championships. With Stickle, I think we're in consensus here. He can snap the ball, though. He can snap the ball.
He snaps the ball well. He's emerged from nowhere to be a viable part of the depth of this team, meaning that he could get snaps in games, and it wouldn't be the end of the world unless those games were against really good teams. then you've got problems. If he's going against whatever in this league, you'd probably be all right. If he's going against a really good team in this league, like Clemson, you've got a problem. So that's the way I look at that situation. But see, I think you kind of have a problem if Mo starts in those games too. I think they're looking – there's a reason they've tried to replace the man.
I agree.
I mean, look, it's not just me being tough love Cameron over here. To your point, they have tried multiple times to go get somebody. And if it was a different Tom, to quote Jimbo Fisher, I would tell you that I want to start Mo because his footwork is great. He's a hard worker. He plays through injury. He's smart. He just isn't big enough. And I don't know, and again, I don't mean to be mean, there's something going on. He can't gain weight. It drives me nuts. And it's like everybody else comes back bigger. And I'm like, you still look exactly the same. What the hell?
But you know what? He's a silent MVP of last year's team because Caden was never going to be available. And if he was hurt, let's just say he was out for a month. Look at Darius wasn't the solution, I don't think, there. So who the hell knows? What I do know is that if you're looking for a dark horse, believe it or not, as deep as we are on the offensive line, maybe that's a place they could look.
All right. I'll have to be quiet. I'm seeing the 20 seconds sounder there. So we'll go to hour number 2. This hour flew. I love talking about roster stuff, man. Hour number 2 forthcoming. Stay with Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Surrounded by glass. Did you know that each piece is made differently? Your windshield is 2 sheets of glass with a thin plastic in between. This allows it to take an impact without going all the way through. Side and back glasses are typically tempered. This strengthening process is what allows them to be shattered in the event of emergency. Regardless of the glass or how it breaks, we can help. Trust your local auto glass experts. Seminole Auto Glass, proudly serving the Big Bend for over 15 years. Better call Seminole.
At Pinch A Penny Pool, Patio, and Spas, it's prime time hot tub season. And after a long, stressful day, there's nothing like soaking in a hot tub with all that steam. And it has lots of great health benefits, too. Pinch A Penny Pool, Patios, and Spas is your true hot tub headquarters. Save today on the hot tub of your dreams at prices you can afford. Come and shop our 12,000 square foot showroom and find the right model for you. With over 50 hot tubs in stock, you're sure to find the one that's just right. And for a limited time, take advantage of a free spa cover with purchase of your new hot tub. That's around a $400 value, completely free with your purchase. If you're ready to relax, we're here to show you how. Pinch A Penny Pool, Patios, and Spas. Come see us at 2473 Greer Road. Pick out your hot tub and enjoy your free cover. You'll be glad you did.
Did you know that when you order food delivery through third parties like Uber Eats and Bite Squad, local restaurants lose up to 30% of their own revenue, and you're actually sending your money to corporate bank accounts in California? Well, now you can truly support our locally owned restaurants by ordering directly from foodiestakeout.com. Choose from delicious options like El Jalisco, Smitty's Tap House, Hangar 38, Jerry's Cafe, and many more. With Foodies Takeout and Delivery, we can actually put our money where our mouth is. Order your next fresh meal today at foodiestakeout.com.
Tallahassee's favorite family-owned Apple and Mac product stores moved to an all-new location. Mac & More Systems is now located at 230 John Knox Road. Same great people, same great services, same great prices, all at a new location. Mac & More offers computer and Apple device sales, one-on-one consulting, business services, and the most experienced Apple repair team in the city. Learn how to get the most out of your Apple gear. Come by and say hi to the Mac & More Systems team today at their new location. 230 John Knox Road.
There's fun to be had every night at the Corner Pocket. Take home prizes on Trivia Tuesdays and Beer Bingo Thursdays. And kickstart your weekend with Martini Fridays. Plus happy hour runs every weekday and game day specials every time the Noles take the field. Watch all the best games at the Corner Pocket's Vegas Wall, featuring 560 inches of flat screen TV heaven.
Oh, really?
The best food, the best drinks, and the best place to watch all the games. Tallahassee loves the Corner Pocket.
Coming up next, more of the Jeff Cameron Show. Live and local on Real Talk 93.3. WVFT, Greta, Tallahassee.
The latest betting odds and live movements from Vegas. This is your action update.
Now here are your latest lines from our guys in the desert.
Tampa Bay Lightning open up the Stanley Cup playoffs tomorrow as $1.30 dog at Toronto. Minus 150 for the Maple Leafs, 6 over at Scotiabank Arena. Series price, Maple Leafs favored to win the series minus 155. Tampa Bay plus 135. The Rays off to a 14-2 start to the season. They're $1.38 favorite at Cincinnati today. Jalen Beeks for the Rays. Hunter Green for the Reds plus 126. 9.5 under the total. The Braves at Max Fried on the Hill, the $1.46 road favorite at San Diego plus 136. 8.5 over the total at Petco Park. Sign up now for your free VSiN subscription at vsin.com/subscribe. For more sports betting news and information, go to vsin.com. Mike Son at Real Talk 93.3.
Every piece of land has a story. Some right there is behind the wheel of a John Deere 1 Series tractor, like the Upshaws.
This is my tractor Penny. It's all about attention to detail.
But the Nelsons love cruising around their expansive Montana ranch in their John Deere Gator UV.
We've been here since 1868.
While the Caggianos drive a John Deere zero-turn mower to keep their Long Island brewery looking sharp.
Don't call me. Don't bother me. I'm going out to mow for a couple hours.
Run with us and start telling your story. Learn more at johndeere.com/radio.
I'm Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I learned about atrial fibrillation the hard way. My symptoms would come and go. Shortness of breath, fatigue. I kept going. Then I got so lightheaded, I couldn't. My doctor said I have AFib, so I'm about 5 times more likely to have a stroke. Other symptoms, irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain can come and go, but the risk of stroke stays. If you have symptoms, tell a doctor. Visit notimetowait.com.
Sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
We understand how important it is to have transportation you can rely on. So no matter what the road ahead brings, we'll be there, offering you and your family the support that's made Farm Bureau Insurance a trusted name for over 70 years. You deserve more. You deserve a promise.
I'm Andy Cohen with Florida Farm Bureau Insurance. Please call me at 850-671-FARM.
You worked hard all day and are settled in for a little downtime by relaxing in your hammock located in a nice shady spot in your beautiful North Florida backyard. Then one gets you, then another, and another, and another. Mosquitoes have you sprinting to the back door, and you just pray none get inside as you open it. That's pretty much the story here this time of year. Mosquitoes are ruining our time in our yards. They're pretty much taking over when the sun starts going down. Paul's Termite and Pest Control has an inexpensive solution to this persistent problem. Paul's has a program which treats the grounds, flower beds, shrubs, and standing water. Paul's program controls mosquitoes year-round, which means you can take back control of your yard. Not only are mosquitoes a physical irritation, they also pose potential health risk to people and pets. Enjoy your yard again, mosquito-free. Call Paul's Termite and Pest Control today for your free consultation.
For the elimination of any pest, call Paul. We'll get them all.
Visit Paul's online at callpauls.com. Callpauls.com.
We all want more energy, more strength, more results. Well, welcome to Orange Theory Fitness as you take a step towards feeling more alive today. Backed by science, Orange Theory's heart rate monitored workout is scientifically designed to keep heart rates in a target zone, spiking metabolism and increasing energy. Orange Theory Fitness is a one-of-a-kind group personal training workout resulting in more energy, visible toning, and extra calorie burn for up to 36 hours. Experience a more vibrant life today with Orange Theory Fitness. To find out more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com.
Broadcasting live from Florida's capital city, this is the Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness on Real Talk 93.3. Now, stop what you're doing and listen closely. It's time for the Jeff Cameron Show in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hour number 2, Jeff Cameron Show 93.3, Real Talk Radio, WarchantTV. Great to be with you. Hope you're well. On a gorgeous Ballsmick Wednesday, I'm Jeff. That's Tom. Director Matthew in the house. We're live. We're just at home. It's all right. It's the way it's going to be today. Live, but at home. And you should hear my dog in about 30 minutes barking crazily as kids come home from school. Good times.
Who knew that all those interviews with Walt Deptula back in the day would just be a sign of things to come as technology improved and you could do a show from the house, that it would just be the sound of the future, so to speak.
Yeah, no, this will be an interesting conversation with Walt this year when Florida State comes up to Clemson to take on the Tigers, a game that is not a foregone conclusion for once. It's been a minute. It's been a minute. I'd really like to go ahead and end that losing streak. I'd love to do it there, although it is kind of weird because you feel like in a game or a series played between those two teams, and by series I mean 2 games, that it would be a split. It feels like it would be a split. So it's almost like I'm calculating in my mind, go ahead and lose that one on the road so that you can get the ultimate revenge and win the war after having lost the battle.
Yeah, I hear you. If Clemson were to win the regular season matchup, that would be 8 in a row.
Oh, it's excessive.
You'd be in a position where if you slip up in Charlotte, you would have all of that talent gone, all that veteran talent, and Clemson would be coming to town for a bid at the Platinum Bohica, buddy, which would be very, very shameful. Did you know that the all-time series is now whittled down to just a 5-game spread? We lead at 20-15. That is embarrassing. We have got to change this, sir.
Yeah, and that was a point of pride for a real long time because Clemson fans, in fairness to them, have always been rabid, good football fans, and they were painfully aware of how they had been bent over upon Florida State's arrival in the ACC for years, to the point where it seemed impossible that they would ever get within striking distance of a series equalizer. You know, they didn't seem to have any hope that was ever going to happen. And, you know, understandably, when you're down 15, 17 games in a series, you just, in your lifetime, it's hard to project how you're going to win something so lopsidedly as to make a dent into that. And yet, never say never, because it happened. And we would never have guessed in 2013, you and I on the road up at Clemson, down on the field, the both of us, watching that ass beating being delivered in front of those gobsmacked fans, many of whom headed to the exits midway through the second quarter. They could have never realized that their day was coming. And it hurts to say, but that's exactly what's happened.
What's crazy is I'm looking at the year-by-year results, and there's a lot of orange in the last 7, of course. But the winner of that football game between Florida State and Clemson, for as garbage as the ACC is in general in football for that period of time, the winner of that football game at the time that they won it has been a top 5 team in the country every single year except 2021. That's dating back to 2012, the night that Clemson threw the bag of tricks at us. Mark Stoops had real problems adjusting, but Jimbo had it. And he had it to the way that Florida State would score 49 points at home. They could have scored more if they really needed them. But from 2012 to present, only the 2021 season did not feature the winner of this football game in the top 5 in the country. So could it be that when they tee it up again, 10 years after that ass kicking that we delivered up there, that both teams are in the top 5 for the matchup? It's very possible.
It is very possible, and I think that matchup will be fantastic. I look forward to it. We'll continue to. By the way, guys, love you guys in the chat. I occasionally am looking at the chat. Sometimes I'm not looking in the chat, but things come up in the chat, and we do double check them when they come up. So I did see while I was talking to you just now that maybe another member of the Florida State football team has entered the portal. We'll get confirmation. I just never want you to think we're completely ignoring you, but we obviously can't go with what's in the chat per se. We got to get confirmation so that we don't get yelled at. So there you go. That's what we'll do, and we'll track that down. I will say this, Daniel, since you're the one who wrote it, it wouldn't be stunning if that particular player is. It would not be stunning. and it really wouldn't be impactful in any way, shape, or form either. None. And I mean, other than it's fun to watch him work out. He's a real strong guy. And he is liked. He is liked in that locker room. That's the thing. It's fun to be able to talk about guys and then follow it up pretty quickly at, oh man, guys love that guy. We seem to say that a lot. Scott, he is not a great player. He's not even a good player. He's not even an average player. So don't go there, buddy. That's crazy.
That's got to be, I would assume, sarcasm.
Is that sarcasm, Scott? I hope. He's not a great
player. 5 stars, and that's so if that's the truth, then
yeah, no, he's not a good player. But he looks like a good player. He looks like a player should look if he were really good. Like you'd see that guy walk in somewhere and you'd be like, that dude, he's got to be good. Look at him. Yeah. But he's not. So, and that's where you talk about fluidity and your ability to turn your hips and all that stuff and have some instincts about you. And it's tough. The game is more than being really strong. Yeah. And also you're right. It doesn't mean guys that have brought this up, Jag just did it. Doesn't mean guys that enter the portal are automatically gone. But I brought this point up yesterday. And I got to tell you, I still don't really know where I sit on this. Ira said basically, Tom, that it's going to end up being a case-by-case basis. What were the circumstances by which the player did that? Meaning entered their name into the portal. And I can see it being that way where you have to have some flexibility about you, even if it rubs you the wrong way. I would have a hard time having a guy enter his name into the portal, not fish about, but actually enter his name into the portal and then come groveling back for whatever reason and want to act as if this was, no big deal that they entered the portal. I might be of the mindset to say, no, by all means, have a good day. Now, you could counter that. I see the text or the tweet. I'll get to it. You could counter that with, yeah, Jeff, you're going to say that to a Heisman candidate? What if your all-world wide receiver caught wind of some crazy offer, threw his name out there because he believed it, he was somehow convinced it was real, only to find out that it wasn't, that he had been duped by an unscrupulous agent or agent-like individual operating on the behest of that program that is trying to wreak havoc against your program, and then comes back to you and says, listen, I thought I had an opportunity to make 3 times what I'm making here in NIL money, and then I found out it wasn't real. I was never unhappy, but how could I turn down $500,000 when I was making $200,000? There's no way I could do that, coach. Can I come back? And would I say, no, you can't? Probably not. You're probably right. I probably wouldn't say that. I'd probably welcome him back. So I know. I mean, it's tough.
I'd say here, this is a position group that, while it doesn't have the top end that wows the guy above me on the screen here, and Jeff on Warchant TV, the linebacker room has probably 5 to 6 options ahead of Steven Dix Jr. specifically, maybe 7 when you have Blake Nicholson entering campus this fall. So as he tweets out, it's in his own words for those of you driving around town listening on Real Talk 93.3, Steven Dix Jr. tweeted out a message saying, thank you, Florida State, for everything. I will be entering the transfer portal with 3 years of eligibility left. I'm not sure how the hell he still has 3 years of eligibility left.
He's 38 years old.
Good for Steven Dix Jr. But even with Brendan Gant's departure, if you're looking at the 2 deep or the linebacker position, I mean, the 2 starters in Tatum Bethune and Kalen DeLoach. You know that Omar Graham had a good camp, had a good final couple weeks of camp, but the coaching staff really likes what they have. And that young player, Lundy, is going to be there in front of Steven Dix Jr. as well. DeMarco Ward had a nice finish to camp.
We'll be here till tomorrow if you're going to name everybody in front of Steven Dix. He wasn't going to play. He's not any good. Now, that is not me being mean. That's the reality of the situation. He hasn't been good. He's a great kid. He's a hard worker. I wish him nothing but the best. I hope he succeeds wherever it is he goes. But we're not going to waste time. He's He's gone. He's not a real good player. I think he's maybe special teams. Okay, I'll amend this. On special teams, he can run real fast down there. He's a big kid. He'll blow up the wedge or something like that. There you go. That's what you got for me.
All right. What's next then?
Yeah. So there you go. We can take down the tweet. But yeah, that's where we're at. It's official. That's what you got. I mean, that's from his Twitter account. So there we go. Nothing's going on in the locker room, guys. There's no reason to panic here. These are players that we're not going to play, many of whom need to go. I would make room for 4 or 5 more if I could. If I'm coming through and you're just giving me a list of guys, and again, I'm removing emotion from this. I'm removing any feelings you might have about an individual. This is me looking at a roster talking about trying to win some championships, win some games around here, as I used to say, right? There are a lot of guys that I'm saying, you need to follow Stephen Dick's lead. He's got the right idea. There are a lot of guys on this roster that I would say, it seems to me that Brendan Gant was on the right trail. It looks like to me that Tavius Woody had the right idea. I would be saying this to 10 other guys right now, and I would have plenty of room to go out and find some other guys that are better players than those individuals. That's where I'd be going. And we'll see. I don't know what's going to happen. And again, that's just removing all emotion from the situation. There are plenty of guys on this team that, if you're in the right situation, are never going to see the field, ever. And they shouldn't, because they're not good enough.
I think what they need to do at Florida State is bring you in like it's Office Space and you're John C. McGinley, and you could be the guy who walks in and has those conversations where you just kind of process and you move along. Make sure you wear the suspenders, because that's always a flex.
Yeah.
And just
what is it you say you do here?
Okay. So you're telling me that when we go to practice and the 1s and the 2s are on the field, where are you? Okay. And you've been here on campus for how long? Okay. I'm sorry, since 2018?
2018.
Oh my. Okay. All right. So what is it you say that you want to get out of your time here at Florida State? Do you consider yourself a football player? Because I'm not seeing evidence here on this sheet that beyond, practice. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we have a conclusion here. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. And then you could be that guy. You got those meetings scheduled for 15 minutes. They always happen on Friday afternoon. And then that's how it happens. The PR firm could actually start as an HR consulting firm.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this is good. You're in a good situation here, man. You're upgrading the talent on your roster left and right. Your recruiting class keeps getting better. The players you've brought in have upgraded the depth of talent on this roster. Your floor is much higher than it used to be. Your ceiling's better this next year than it's been in eons, really. And by eons, obviously, when you're losing football games, man, 2 and 3 years feels like forever. So, I mean, goodness gracious, you now are in a really good position. But as you do that, as you develop players, and they do it all over the field, you see it everywhere right now, in addition to developing players and going out and getting better players and upgrading your high school recruiting, which they're also doing right now, you're going to see a lot of guys go by the wayside. Guys that were here when things weren't going so well. Guys that you had to settle on because you didn't have options on better players. Nobody was looking at you. But as you upgrade and you get better players and you bring them in, and it's readily apparent to those veteran players who look over at, let's just say, for example, at linebacker when Nicholson comes in, a two-sport athlete, a guy who plays both ways, a guy who's an elite athlete. He comes into town. You know immediately when you see that kid, that's different. I'm not beating that out. And so you look for other places to go play. There's nothing wrong with that, man. I looked around the locker room at little old East Tennessee State, and I went, damn, that kid's a lot faster than me. Damn, that kid's a lot bigger than me. It happens everywhere, and you have to start to figure out where you fit in. And sometimes when you go through that process, you go, I don't fit in. I'm never going to play here. And that's the way it works. It's not personal. That's just the reality of the situation.
The question is, how many does it get to before this window is closed? And I think, and I would start the counter with Gant. It's not McClendon during camp. It starts post-spring. So that's 3. And I know that when you look at the roster, you see at least 10 more.
Well, listen, I'm not going to get here and start, I'm not going to sit here now and just rattle off names. But as they come up, I'm not going to sugarcoat that it's okay that they're leaving. I mean, there'll be more, and I'm going to go yay or nay. I'll be honest with you, right? I mean, we both said, it kind of sucks that Gant left. Not the end of the day, but I would have preferred he stayed. McClendon, not the end of the day, I would have preferred he stayed. But come on, let's not kid ourselves. There's 7-8 guys minimum that if they say they're leaving, we're going to go, okay, more room for better things.
Well, I revisit a question we got a couple of weeks ago, which was, I think, was it 6.5 was the over-under? I mean, at this point, even before the news that happened 18 minutes ago on Twitter from Stephen Dix himself, it felt like it's going to fly past that number. I mean, of guys that at least enter their names into the portal. They at least take that step. Doesn't mean that they follow through necessarily, but that at least enter their names into the portal. That's got to be closer to 10, I would think.
If they want to play football, yeah. I mean, okay, so again, I'll have to fight to not say names before they enter their name in the portal. It always sounds to people like you're just being mean. It's not. But let's look at tight end, Tom. Let's look at what they just did to the tight end room. They seriously upgraded the tight end room. I know you do too, 4 tight ends are going to play a lot this year. One of them I would have moved on from, but they clearly like him. 4 tight ends are going to play a lot. Now, there are more than 4 tight ends in that room.
Yeah, I would think that you are going to still invest your time and efforts into both Jarrell Powers and Brian Courtney.
Well, one of those kids, maybe. We disagree on one of them, but that's okay. And listen, that's fine. I think it's a good point you make with Powers, but there's room for people to take it on down the road.
Correct. You're going to lose 2 of them this offseason, so you continue to develop beyond Biscuit down the line. And you see if anybody could be a solution by the end of fall camp. And you'll know by December how many more you need to go get in the portal or whatever it is. And obviously, you're bringing in the #1 tight end in the country now in Landon Thomas, who flipped back from Georgia to Florida
That's
State.
the other reason I brought up tight end, Tom.
Correct.
Yes.
So these are all true things, but I don't know that you need to press press the eject button on the younger tight ends that are in that room. There's some guys that have been here for several years, so I hear you there. But I don't know that you need to press eject on some projects, kids that you knew were going to be developmental projects anyway that have unique skill sets. Offensive line to me is a place where there's a lot of dudes. There's
4 you could tell to have a good day tomorrow.
Probably so.
Maybe more. But I mean, that's yeah. And again, I'm not saying they all go, and I'm not saying that we know for a fact that these kids are all going to come to the same conclusion that I've come to. It's hard to know when you're the one out there every day sacrificing. And I admire that, man. Football's hard. It's a very hard game. I'm not taking shots at them personally. I am saying that there's no denying that the roster is getting better. Everywhere you look, they're making upgrades on this roster. You bring in the #1 tight end in the country, somebody's got to go. You've got too many tight ends. And it's a beautiful problem because now we're talking about an area that just 2 years ago, I was almost ready to weep at when we looked at our tight ends. When we looked at our offensive line, I would come in every day and go, oh, good God, this group cannot win with this offensive line. And now we're talking about 13 dudes. It's a good problem to have, but the numbers don't add up. And in today's football, if you're one of those guys and the roster's passed you by because Florida State's status has been upgraded, then you may want to look for somewhere else to go. No hard feelings. Like you said earlier in the show, Tom, you are right. No hard feelings both ways. Have a good one.
Yeah, it wasn't 2 years ago for the tight end room. It was like 6 months ago,
Yeah.
because it wasn't until the back half of the season that we're like, hey, Marquiston, all right, there you go, Biscuit. It's a good player right there. But then you just got better and better at that particular position in the offseason. So, yeah, things are getting better at most positions here at Florida State, both ways, I think is the important thing to point out. From the transfer portal, but then also the high school ranks, this recruiting class has a chance to be, it was top 5 for a minute there for about a day on the On3 industry recruiting rankings. It's back to 7th. But it's got a chance to be, if they win double-digit games again and the offense looks fun, top 5 class industry-wide, they've got a lot of momentum to them right now. My question is, and I think this is where it's fun with roster building, is, okay, so you've got the number 1 tight end in the country. We've got like 3 different ways that the tight end can play. This kid loves to block, Landon Thomas. I did the video with Michael. He's got a lot of blocking film, which makes me excited because it means he likes to do it. But when you build an offense the way you want to, as Mike Norvell, not a reclamation project at quarterback who turns into a Heisman candidate, just you build it the way you want to draw it up. How many tight ends do we have on the field at a given time in our base offense? How many receivers does he want? Does he want to be power? Does he want to be straight multiple so we can
he clearly wants to be multiple, obviously. I mean, look at what we did last year. We beat opponents last year each week in a different way.
Correct, but the thing is, philosophically speaking, when it comes down to it, and now that you can recruit to be whatever it is you want, especially if they have another big season this year, you will be able to recruit to an identity that is yours. And it's not about, I'm going to work with the best of what I got. It's here's what I want to do. I wonder what that looks like.
Well, I don't know, but I've heard Mike Norvell say that he always, and he did it at Memphis, adheres to personnel strengths in the moment.
Yep.
And that is going to vary because it's not professional football. You don't get to sign guys to 8-year deals.
Yep.
They're 3 years if they're good. And so you've got to be malleable. And you have to recognize, well, this year's strength is the offensive line. I'm going to run the ball. This year's strength is the quarterback. I'm going to chuck it around the lot. This year's strength is, whatever it is, wide receiver. I'll have 4 out there at any given time, 5 sometimes because we have so many good ones. I do think he's malleable in that way. And because college football is uniquely different. Pro football, you're right. You can really build a roster around your overriding philosophy and make them adhere to that and find the perfect pieces to fit those roles. But kids come and go. And now with the portal, not only do you contend with graduation, but you get kids who just pissed off or homesick, and you're going to lose a kid. So you have to really be malleable. It's Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Downside risk in your portfolio is one of the biggest challenges that you'll face in retirement. Trillions of dollars in stimulus from the Federal Reserve and D.C. politicians, combined with zero interest rates, have propped up financial markets since the financial crisis ended in 2009. The Fed recently ended quantitative easing and has started to raise interest rates at a time when the global economy was already slowing. Have you considered what another 50% correction in the stock market would do to your retirement plan? If you're concerned about where this all might be headed and would like to find out about the potential benefits of an active risk management strategy for your portfolio, give me a call at 850-900-5200. Schedule a time for a review of your portfolio from an active risk management perspective.
Make Jamie your first call for a second opinion. Investment advisory services are offered through Trek Financial, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. A cup of Joe, Java, brew, go-go beans, brain water, liquid lightning, wakey juice, whatever you call your cup of coffee, you're missing out if it's not Grassroots Coffee. At grassrootscoffee.com, you'll find an easy way to order the best roasted coffee beans available. It's very simple. Choose the blend you want and how you want it ground, and the bag you receive will have the date your beans were roasted and packaged on it, all written by hand and signed by the roast master himself. You'll know that's as fresh as it gets. You can get Grassroots outside of your house also at some of your favorite restaurants in town. Next time you're out to eat, try asking for Grassroots Coffee by name, because there's a good chance they will have it for you. And if you own a business, Grassroots Coffee has options to stock your break rooms with all the productivity powder your team needs. Plus, like some other options that you'll find at work, Grassroots Coffee actually is a part of our community. Get to grassrootscoffee.com today. Get yourself a treat. Some locally owned, locally roasted, and locally loved Grassroots Coffee.
Injured? Call Basic Brooks Law Offices, 777-7777.
Small businesses and everyday Floridians depend on a thriving digital economy. But some Florida politicians are pushing an anti-free market law that will crush our economy and hurt consumers. If passed, their reckless new law would prevent small businesses from reaching local customers online. And it could force Floridians to pay for online tools that are free today. SB 262 and HB 1547 are examples of big government at its worst. Don't let the politicians break the internet for Florida and destroy jobs. Let's protect our small businesses and consumers. Let's keep our digital economy strong, and let's keep the Sunshine State open for business. Contact your state senator and state representative today at flsenate.gov and myfloridahouse.gov. That's flsenate.gov and myfloridahouse.gov. Tell your lawmakers to reject SB 262 and HB 1547. Paid for by the Council for Citizens Against Government Waste.
Let's be honest, we all have way too much stuff. Maybe your storage closet is full, your garage is full, or the guest bedroom is a mess. Call Southeast Portable Buildings, 580-6400, or visit them online at southeastportablebuildings.com.
We all want more energy, more strength, more results. Well, welcome to Orange Theory Fitness as you take a step towards feeling more alive today. Backed by science, Orange Theory's heart rate monitored workout is scientifically designed to keep heart rates in a target zone, spiking metabolism and increasing energy. Orange Theory Fitness is a one-of-a-kind group personal training workout, resulting in more energy, visible toning, and extra calorie burn for up to 36 hours. Experience a more vibrant life today with Orange Theory Fitness. To find out more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com.
You know, it's certainly possible, Tom. I saw while we were in the break that some folks might, be interested in a wide receiver. I wouldn't be against it, but I would really need it to be a difference maker. I would really need to see a guy that you're looking at to plug and play right off the bat. That it'd be kind of a no-brainer. Because if you think about this one aspect, we like where it's going in terms of career growth and overall potential for Portier. We like where that's headed. We believe Johnny Wilson, is going to be good again this year. But you don't know the situation in terms of the post-surgery return to health for Micah Pittman. You don't know how soon that's going to be. And you really haven't seen him go all out yet and be consistently, for lack of a better term, good from Winston Wright yet. And, we know he missed last year off that terrible car accident and the surgeries he had. Now, we're all rooting for him, and we assume because we've seen him running at full speed some. You and I certainly have practice have watched him change directions and go through drills. But we haven't seen one of those days where he has 4 big plays in one-on-ones or 7-on-7. Or, we haven't really seen that at all. So, I think there's a question mark about how far back he gets, to how close does he get to being the guy he was at West Virginia, who was uber productive. So we don't know. And then you've had some other guys who have been hurt or, unimpactful, for lack of a better term. I guess you could certainly look at that position and say that if there was a difference maker, you would do it.
Yeah, what's interesting is just looking at last year's stats for the receivers. The 5th leading receiver on the team in terms of yardage last year was Kentron. I didn't know that, but he had 283 yards. But I think if you thought about this for more than a few seconds out there in the chat or on the radio, who was the number 2 receiver on the roster in terms of yardage? If you think big games, you're going to get it right. Pokey Wilson is a loss. This is a loss year to year for this roster. That was a guy who, if you listed the most important players in the LSU victory, he's got to be in your top 3.
Big game Pokey is what he became known as. He made all the big plays early and impactful moments in those games. See the Miami game.
Yep. The Miami game, the first touchdown down the middle. I mean, it's 495 yards. It's not like a ton, but each of them were pretty big, it felt like. And so when you're looking for somebody to help you make a statement early in the game, when you're looking for another option on third and got to have it, beyond Johnny, who we feel better about, and he could be a game breaker, I like the tough catches he makes, but you still have a doubt there on a 4th and 6 or a 3rd and 7 when the ball's in the air. It's like, all right, bring it down now. Bring it down, Johnny. You're open. Who's the next guy? Do you have to go to Jaheim Bell first? Do you have to go to Morlock? Or do you like Kentron or Vandrevius? But it gets thinner. The responses that you're looking for aren't there in spades where you're saying, oh, well, if he's not open, we're going here because I can trust that guy. There's a lot of unproven to Florida State when it's a 3rd and gotta have it situation. I think I almost feel better with a rail route to Trey Benson or Lawrence Toafili in that situation than I might some of the receiving targets. So if I was going to make an argument for them going into the portal to go get a receiver, that would be how I would craft the argument of, I don't know who's the old reliable outside of Johnny in that wide receiver core when you got to have a big play.
Well, the original argument I made, and I think there was some pushback from some Florida State fans, but I don't think they're an elite receiving core by any stretch. That receiving core is not something that defensive coordinators sit around scared to death of. I don't believe that. Not good teams, not good defenses. I think that you are always going to recognize if you're a defensive coordinator that you got a problem with a 6'7" receiver that moves as well as Johnny Wilson does for his size. Now, Johnny Wilson ain't running away from anybody, so they're not worried about his speed, his straight line speed. He's not slow, but he's not a burner. So you're not worried about that. You're worried about his size, and his ability to go up and make athletic plays down the field, make tough catches. He'll give you some back, though, which we know. There is no clear number 2 right now, to the point where we think Vandrevius Jacobs may have won that spot. I mean, a true freshman in one spring has wowed us to the point where we're considering maybe he's your 2. Portier is likely your 2, but you know what I'm saying. I mean, it's that close already. It's not. I mean, now where I do think the matchup problems are presented, now I'm still in that role of that DC for that opposing team, is I say, all right, I'm not scared to death of these receivers, but damn, man, they've got 3 tight ends that can really hurt me. And it's not me just having to stop these receivers. I've got these tight ends to deal with, and they're not going to have to change out personnel because they can stay on the field if they want to run the ball too. And then in addition to that, they've got especially one running back that catches as well as a receiver does in Toafili. So they can line him up in the slot, or he can catch the ball out of the backfield with the best of them. Their quarterback is extremely mobile. So if they put us in one-on-one situations and we're in man and we turn our back to this kid, he makes one guy miss and it's peace. It's maybe a house call. It's not a first down. It might be a house call. So our offense presents real problems for defenses. And that's why we think and project this offense to do a lot of damage. I didn't even get to the depth at running back and the depth of the offensive line. We expect them to do a lot of damage. But if we're solely focusing on that segment group, wide receiver, Tom, you would not say that was an elite receiving core.
No, I think they've got an elite player, and we defined that in a previous segment, about college elite versus NFL, whatever. I think they've got an elite player in Johnny, and then they've got varied skill sets. I think that's their strength right now. They're not proven. Now, some of these guys, if and when they prove themselves, you're going to jump up the ranks in how you would term the receiver.
Oh, Deuce Spann is exactly who you're talking about there, because he's, from an NFL standpoint, the guy, right? Receiver-wise. I mean, that athleticism, that length, that speed, those hops, he's got to figure it all out.
Yeah, same thing I would say for Darion Williamson. If he could be healthy enough to, participate with consistency in this fall, that's a skill set that you can do a lot of things with, and he could take that next step. Dre Jacobs, we all expected at this point that it's going to happen. It's just, could it happen in his freshman season? Is that too much to ask? I think that's the question that's before him. But you look at the skill sets, they are varied. You have I would term Kentron as more of a possession style receiver. Again, not another burner, but he's not small. He's not small.
No, he's a big kid.
And he does a great job of body control and catching in traffic. He still puts him on the deck a little bit too every once in a while, and that'll frustrate you. But then you've got Winston Wright, and if it clicks for him health-wise, it's going to go overnight, and he'll be realized. You just hope that that's still in the tank for him as we get into fall camp. Because if it comes back, he is proven. We know what he is. Ja'Kai Douglas is a burner, and that could be used as a gadget player, but whatever. That's something that you've got to scheme for on defense. You go down the list. If you want tall targets, if you want medium-sized possession targets or little scat-type receivers, we've got it. It's just that you don't have a guy next to Johnny where you say elite, elite. It's just not. That's just not the case. Not yet.
No, and I you know what I hear when we do this, when we have the larger discussion about receiver, and I do it too. We have to. I hear if. I hear if over and over and over again is what I hear. Capital I, capital F. And that leaves me a little uncomfortable. Again, hyper-focus, hyper-scrutiny, trying to look at winning a championship and get to a place where we can win a championship. Championship-level teams aren't perfect teams, but they don't have a ton of ifs either.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing you kind of look at. You know, you look at the best teams in the country, you'll go, oh, well, they're a little weak here, they're a little weak there. But there's not a lot of guesswork as to whether or not they have the skill to, you know, to put an ugly number on you. I mean, you know, you're like, that guy's good, that guy's good. What are we going to do about that guy? What do we do here? I just hear too many ifs when it comes to our receiving core right now.
What's fun, though, is when it's proven that we go grab dudes from high school, and I think that's the next thing that's happening before our eyes. Then the talk becomes, wait till you see this kid. And I feel like Vandrevius is close. He's very close to wait till you see this guy status. Not quite yet. I do want to see how fall camp progresses and if he can be consistent. Had a case of the drops towards the end of camp, the spring camp as well. But if he holds up and he can handle that rigorous schedule, man, let's just say that he has one game-breaking play against LSU. At that point, confidence would skyrocket. You know you belong. And who knows where that kid could go? Because, again, nobody's going to scheme around Vandrevius Jacobs week to week. They've got too much other stuff to worry about. So if he can be in a confident place with that skill set and you're drawing the third best or fourth best defensive back, man, somebody has the chance to go off. And even if they're not, you know, what their stats might suggest they are, just because you're going to get a great matchup so often.
Oh, we're a matchup problem. I agree with that. That's the counter to my if question. We are a matchup problem. I mean, if you're going to leave guys alone, I mean, they're going to make some plays now. And I really like Mike as a play caller. So he tends to put guys in positions to succeed. He tends to find isolations in one-on-one situations in which you can exploit somebody. So you got a good coach, a good offensive mind, and he's got a varied group of weapons. You can overcome all these ifs that I concern myself with. It's just kind of fun to do the, you know, two-headed monster there with the argument and have some back and forth with it.
You know, the thing that gets me really excited, and it does exactly what I don't want to do, is put too much expectations on a true freshman, even though that it's not like a real thing that they're placed upon him physically. It's just, I don't want to be disappointed. And I think back to some of these one-on-ones that we watched across the weeks with Vandrevius, like the individual matchups when he's on an island with a corner, which he's going to be often this year. Man, he made some of our better corners look like fools. And he is a true freshman in his first camp.
But what you do is lead into the argument of how good are our corners, and is that going to be a problem? It's the Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Take-back event for those who have unwanted, unused, or expired prescription drugs or over-the-counter medications. Proper disposal of these items is important so it keep them out of the hands of children and individuals who abuse prescription drugs and OTC medications. The drop-off event will take place Saturday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at TPD headquarters located at 234 East 7th Avenue. A TPD representative will be on site to assist participants. The Greater Tallahassee Chamber of Commerce is playing an active role in tackling the homelessness issue in the capital city. It's conducting a survey for its more than 1,200 members on their experiences with homelessness and how it affects their businesses. They believe the feedback from the survey can help find solutions. The survey can be found on the Chamber's website. It's open for the Chamber's businesses and their employees to take now through Thursday. This is Rachel Lene with Real Talk 93.3 Local News Update, brought to you by Macklemore Systems, Tallahassee's go-to Mac store. Check them out online at MacklemoreSystems.com.
This is meteorologist Paul Trombley with your Real Talk 93.3 weather update. Mainly sunny this afternoon with highs around 87. Southeasterly winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Lows around 57 tonight. Sunny skies tomorrow. High temperatures reach up to 87. Highs level off around 86 Friday under mainly sunny skies. 81 Saturday, chance for scattered storms. This report is brought to you by the Lawn Johns. For all your landscaping and lawn care needs, visit thelawnjohns.com. Right now, 84.
Hey, no fans, our partner ISF Inc. is a national management and IT consulting firm located right here in Tallahassee, Florida, solving the future for state governments through strategy, process, and technology. As a trusted advisor for state governments, ISF knows the importance of defining a clear and detailed strategy. Our friends at ISF can help your organization create a strategy that sets you on a path to success. ISF, your vision plus our expertise brings your brilliant ideas to life. Visit ISF.com to learn more. ISF, solving the future. My man, Eddie.
Jeff, what's happening, dude?
Bears eating people all over the place. I read another article today. It's the third one in the last month of somebody getting mauled to death by a bear.
Man, bears have their own space. You got to let them have that.
You do. You got to stay clear of bears, is what you're saying.
Yes.
I got a question for you. Here you go. If you had to be mauled to death, eaten alive by any animal in the world, which would you choose to eat you alive?
Ooh, I think maybe I'd want, I don't know, longevity time, a mouse.
Just a slow burn.
Slow burn.
This thing just finished the pinky. It's been a month.
I could go to work. I could still do my thing. I could probably live 30 years.
I thought you were going to say great white because it'd be quick, or a grizzly. We went with mouse.
Yeah, mouse.
Okay. Mouse it is. Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
Welcome back to the Jeff Cameron Show, sponsored by Legendary Home Loans, a mortgage experience designed around speed, simplicity, and customer service. Before you buy your next home,
If we were hot tubbing it, Tom, if we were in, not that you and I would be, but if we were floating in the tub, if we were pinch a penny hot tubbing it, we were in the tub, I'd bring up a couple of baseball stats late in the show here as we were relaxing in the tub because of Kershaw's win last night. And I don't know if you had the opportunity to see some of the rarefied air that puts him in. But an interesting talking point that if you would look at, say, the first 23, soon to be 25 years of the 21st century, who are the best pitchers? And the answer is certainly Justin Verlander, Max Scherzer, Clayton Kershaw. Some people would throw in there Zach Greinke. But that would be your list right there, right? That would be a list of guys. But I thought this was kind of cool. According to Baseball Reference, if you just look at WAR, the answer is Verlander, Kershaw, Greinke, Scherzer. Fangraphs has it Verlander, Kershaw, Scherzer. If you go by old school metrics, ERA, it is Kershaw, Scherzer, Verlander. ERA plus Kershaw by a mile. If it's just strikeouts, it's Scherzer, Verlander, Kershaw. You get my point here, guys. If it's whip, it's Kershaw, Verlander, Scherzer. That gives you a sizable view and a lot of metrics to view who have been the best players at that position, pitcher, over the last 23 years. Now, again, Verlander is old as dirt, and he has pitched more than all those guys. So some of his strikeout numbers are skewed a little bit there. But, man, it's kind of cool to think that you've been watching, even if we're not a fan of the team, and we're not. None of those guys. Well, for you, Scherzer is now on your team. He has been on every team in the majors, but he is now on yours. So you have a rooting interest. But Verlander has been on a lot of teams too. None of those guys have been on teams I give a damn about, but I love baseball. So I would just note that it's really cool that we've seen the three best pitchers of the last 23 years, really the first part of this century, if you will. These guys are all Hall of Famers.
Well, and Verlander's a Met now too. We'll see if he ever pitches.
I forgot about that. That's right.
Yeah. We'll see if he ever pitches for him. I think it's Kershaw, though, even though we've got two of the guys that you keep listing on that roster, just because the consistency. I saw a stat today about in the modern live ball era of baseball, which goes back a long ways. If you list every pitcher who has 200 or more wins and an ERA below 250, that list consists of Clayton Kershaw. That's it. Nobody else has 200 or more wins and an ERA sub 250. And it's not like Kershaw has pitched in, the 60s, when it's the year of the pitcher and they move the mound and they change the rules on those things. Maybe some sticky tack stuff towards the end of his career, but he's old now. In the heart of his career, I mean, it's all about the 3-run home run. And in that division, too, the NL West usually has a couple of big bats in it throughout his career. The dude has just been rock solid and consistent. The playoff discussion is different with Clayton Kershaw, but if you're looking at over 162, I think he's number one in the consistency factor, and then the other two guys are right there behind him with Greinke in the conversation.
Well, and Clayton finally did shake a little bit of the postseason stuff finally, and he ended up having a couple of postseason starts that helped them on their way to a title. So you kind of get rid of that label a little bit. But yes, the numbers are not the back of the baseball card in the postseason. You're right. I would say this: Scherzer is the more explosive of the guys. 10.7 strikeouts per 9 innings is the highest for any pitcher, by the way, in baseball history with more than 400 starts. It's higher than Randy Johnson. It's higher than Pedro Martinez. It's higher than Nolan Ryan.
Wow.
That's crazy.
That's absurd. You wonder if he had to pitch 9 innings a night, if that number would still stay, but it doesn't matter. This is the era that you're a part of and that you were built for. I would just say that the other thing about Clayton, Verlander might be more impressive because I remember we read an article, you read one specifically, but it was on ESPN.com from the ESPN radio days, in which he was declared dead because all of his metrics, everything came down with velocity, everything. And it was basically an article that said Verlander's career is over. It was good while it lasted. And that was about 8 years ago. And he still found a way to win a Cy Young 8 years later. But Kershaw's velocity has diminished so much, and yet he knows how to pitch. I just love guys who, even when
me too. Yeah.
When it tapers down, they might have at one point in their career just throw it by you and blow you away with 96 or 97. That fastball is nothing crazy, but that curveball is just an unbelievable equalizer, and his understanding of pitch sequencing. He's an artist, like Maddox was an artist, like second part of his career, Pedro Martinez. It didn't last very long, but that dude went from 98 miles an hour to 92, and he'd still K10 out of every 9 innings. So I just love guys like that.
Well, and with Pedro, he had everything you wanted in that he had an understanding of the strike zone. He could be a 2-pitch pitcher, and he just kept you off balance all the time. It's crazy. One other note here to your point about Kershaw, and it is fun to bring this up. And anytime we're talking about documentation of a guy who reaches a milestone and we're reflecting on where he sits in this elite group, it's good to know these other metrics. And Kershaw has been the toughest to hit, to your point, the toughest to reach base against, the toughest to score against. Now, Dodger Stadium helps out with that, but he is now 107-40 with a 2.2 ERA and holds hitters to a 204, 255, 318 slash line in Dodger Stadium. If you play him in Dodger Stadium, short of a couple of really bad playoff starts, that dude is beating your ass. You're not going to sniff. And it's just been a dominant set of numbers, and so congratulations to him. Whatever, 200. I oddly know somebody that knows him well and has said that he is a fantastic human being. Yeah, my friend of mine went to his wedding, and he said he's a fantastic human being. He's also giant. And to your point, by the way, about deception and understanding how to pitch, as his fastball diminished and he effectively utilizes that nasty curveball, it's also the herky-jerky, crazy, all elbows and knees motion. You can't pick up the ball.
No. And the last thing I'll say about him, because we only got 2.5 minutes to go, but last night I watched the first inning of the ball game before I was so dead from the hockey game, which go Bolts.
Yep.
And there was a 3-base error on the right fielder to start the game. Routine fly ball. Brandon Nimmo's on third, nobody out. All Kershaw does is throw about 20 curveballs between then and the end of the inning, strikes out the side. I was like, okay, well, nope, we're not getting him tonight. If that's the curveball you've got, we're done.
Hey, rapid fire. Our thanks to our friends at Power Mill. If you got a young softball player, baseball player, take them over and get some lessons there at Power Mill. Get some instruction. Let them be the best they can be. Rays are killing the Reds 8-0. That's Rasmussen and Levi Stout. Guardians and Tigers 3-1 Cleveland. That's Cal Quantrill, Spencer Turnbull. Giants, Marlins, Alex Cobb, Trevor Rogers, Madison Bumgarner, Jake Woodford later on. Rangers, Royals, Martin Perez, Brady Singer, Tawan Walker goes for the Phillies. The White Sox will throw Clevenger. Mets, Dodgers tonight. Max Scherzer, the aforementioned, Noah Syndergaard. And then we've got Pirates, Rockies, who Pirates win again last night. Johan Avedo pitching for the Pirates. Austin Gomber for the Rockies. Cubs, A's, Justin Steele, Mason Miller. Charlie Morton going to go for the Braves. He of the 105-year-old Morton family. Nick Martinez goes for the Padres. Brewers, Mariners, Eric Lauer, Marco Gonzalez. Orioles, Nats. That is Kyle Bradish, Mackenzie Gore. Angels, Yankees, Griffin Canning, Tom. Yep. Johnny Brito goes for the Yankees. Twins, Red Sox, Joe Ryan, Corey Kluber. We'll conclude the night with Jose Barrios with the Blue Jays, and the Astros will throw Luis Garcia. And that is your look at those that shall reside on the bump.
It's a beautiful thing. What's more beautiful is the view from the beach, buddy. That's the more beautiful thing.
So Tom and I are leaving with our significant others today, tomorrow, and we will not be back until Monday. So you guys do well by yourselves and hang in there and have a great week. We're going to go to the beach and spend some time inebriated and then wander around, eat good food, and enjoy ourselves. That's how that's going to work. Good work out of you. Thank you, Director Matthew. Be well, everybody. We'll see you on Monday. Peace.